Did you know that India was once seen as the shining star in the China Plus One strategy, where global companies shifted manufacturing out of China? President Donald Trump has dealt a heavy blow, a 25% tariff starting August 7, 2025, and an additional 25% from August 27, 2025 on Indian goods, due to the country's purchases of Russian oil and weapons. Prime Minister Modi's dream of making India the world's factory is now wavering. According to analysts, Indian exports to the U.S. could drop sharply, threatening the economy. The Trump-Putin meeting on August 15, 2025 could decide it all. Let's take a closer look at the reasons, impacts, and India's response.
Why is the U.S. targeting India? On August 6, 2025, President Donald Trump signed an executive order titled Addressing the Threat from the Government of the Russian Federation to the United States, imposing an additional 25% tariff on Indian goods, effective August 27, 2025, raising the total tariff to 50%. The reason? India's continued imports of Russian oil, which Trump accused of indirectly supporting the war in Ukraine. The order stated, India is currently importing oil from the Russian Federation. To address the national emergency caused by Russia's actions in Ukraine, I am imposing an additional 25% tariff on goods from India.
I think that this is the lowest point that U.S.-India relations have experienced over the last 2 decades of strategic partnership. It's not the worst moment in the history of U.S.-India relations, and that's because there were some really dark days for this relationship during the Cold War, particularly during the last few decades of the Cold War, and also when India formally became a nuclear weapons state in the late 1990s. That prompted U.S. sanctions that really plunged the relationship to a low. The U.S. is one of the top export destinations for Indian goods, and it has held that status for quite some time. So just based on that baseline reality, there could be some notable deleterious impacts for India's economy. That said, India does have the fastest growing major economy in the world. It has one of the largest economies in the world overall, and it has been able to pursue effectively an export diversification policy, and it simply has been able to expand its trade partners in a big way. And after several decades of being relatively reluctant to expand its economic ties with the world, it's really been pursuing a number of trade deals, including free trade agreements, with a number of key countries and players over the last few years.
Compared to China, Russia's largest oil customer, India is being hit with higher tariffs, 50% versus 30%, further escalating trade tensions. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, in an interview with Bloomberg TV, warned that if today's Trump-Putin meeting in Alaska fails, Washington could impose additional punitive tariffs over India's purchases of Russian oil and weapons. Trump admitted to the Indian Express that the tariffs had probably forced Putin to negotiate. India reacted strongly, calling the tariffs unfair, unjustified, and unreasonable, and emphasized that Russian oil is essential for its energy security. The 50% U.S. tariff, effective August 27, 2025, threatens India's $87 billion worth of exports to the U.S. in 2024, with particularly severe impacts on the textiles, footwear, gems, and jewelry sectors. Indian businesses, heavily reliant on the U.S., their largest export destination, face the risk of major disruptions. According to Reuters, August 14, 2025, India has temporarily suspended purchases of Russian oil from state-owned refineries to reduce risks ahead of the Trump-Putin meeting on August 15, 2025.
अमेरिका ने जो टैरिफ बढ़ाया हुआ है उसका इफेक्ट जो
The
है ना
impact of
स्टील
U.S.
इंडस्ट्री पर
tariff
काफी बड़ा
hikes
हुआ
on the
है,
metal
क्योंकि अमेरिका
products
पे जो भी
industry
ऑर्डर्स है
has
वो
been
कैंसिल हो रहे हैं, और
significant.
उसकी वजह से जो
Almost
काम
all
भी है ना,
orders
काम की
from the
गति धीमी
U.S.
पड़
have
गई
been
है। हम
canceled,
लोग का जो भी
leading
यूएस के
to a
ऑर्डर्स है, जैसे आप
slowdown in
पीछे
work
आप देख रहे हैं
progress.
वाइन बकेट वगैरह बन रहा है,
Currently,
इसके
only
जो
the
भी ऑर्डर्स
machines
थे वहाँ पे सब
behind me
कैंसिल
are
हो रहे हैं,
still
और हमारे
producing
पास
for
सब माल
U.S.
जमा
orders.
जमा हो रहा है।
All other orders have been
It is
canceled,
definitely a
resulting in a
difficult situation
backlog of
for the
goods.
Indian exporters. They have already prepared the order. In number of cases, they have provided loans for the raw material purchases also, and in many of the cases, they have booked the space on container. So in that situation, industry will be definitely facing the problem. But at the same time, we are engaged with the government to find some way out for that.
Exporters are going definitely going to suffer due to the tariff war, and our government is trying to amicably solve this matter with the American counterpart, and find a way, mutual way to carry on the business in a mutual way, which is on a equal platform and not at the cost of the Indian people. Okay, because America is trying to dominate in this trade war, and they want to sell more and more products to the Indian markets. But this also sends a clear message to the Indian exporters that please don't be dependent on a single market. Okay, try to export your products to multiple countries.
India is accelerating market diversification through FTAs with the UK, UAE, and Australia, while also expanding into the EU, GCC, and Africa. Michael Kugelman noted that U.S.-India trade talks, though unsuccessful, had almost crossed the finish line and could resume on August 25, 2025, with hopes of tariff reductions if Trump and Putin reach an agreement. Relations with China are improving, with plans to resume direct flights and border trade. The Indian government is prioritizing national interests, estimating the GDP impact at less than 0.2%. Learning from past crises, India is avoiding panic by diversifying markets, strengthening domestic capacity instead of relying entirely on the U.S., and developing an India Plus One strategy. The Reserve Bank of India, RBI, may support businesses through interest rate cuts. India is also consolidating its position within the Quad, BRICS, and Russia-India-China, RIC.
The Trump-Putin meeting on August 15, 2025 could be the decisive turning point for the fate of U.S. tariffs on India, potentially reshaping New Delhi's dream of becoming the world's factory. Will India weather this economic storm? Let's wait and see. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell to get the latest hot-off-the-press analysis.
Okay, try to export your products to multiple countries.